Something we don't cover a lot this is the night before the weigh-in, but we talk about guys cutting weight. Does it suck like extra right around the holidays too? I mean, luckily you're not fighting after Christmas. I can't imagine, because that's a traditional time right after Christmas. I can't imagine not being able, obviously by my build, not being able to eat, around the holidays. It kind of stinks.
I mean, with Thanksgiving and everything, I had to watch what I was eating. My trainer came over to the house and he was pulling my plate away from me. Yeah. So. But I train hard enough where I can eat almost anything. So
what was the last fight like? Nice sized crowd, pretty good opponent, Mike Cook, and it went pretty well. I mean, that was kind of a neat ending.
Oh, it was a great fight, and I mean, it was the first time I fought in front of that many people, so it was great. And the crowd and the people here in San Jose are amazing. So
as a fighter, maybe every fighter's different. Do you feel it? Do you notice it? Is it only on the way in? Do you notice it when it's going on? The crowd?
I mean, I know they're there, and they kind of like, you have that many people watching you, so it just kind of like, that's what makes me, like, that pumps me up. Yeah. That gets me going, so I like it.
And that fight was bizarre, too, because you had one of those, like, frozen moments where you get him with a left body shot, and he just kind of freezes in front of you. What's your reaction when a guy all of a sudden just puts his head there, and you're like, okay?
Just keep going until Big John steps in there, so... Yeah.
So talk about the transition, because to me this is why mixed martial arts is so cool to cover, because everyone's coming from these different backgrounds. Like on this card, you've got a Mo Lawal, who's got this unbelievable amateur wrestling background. He's trying to catch up in terms of the striking. You're coming from the opposite end. You got to work on the ground, staying off the ground. So talk about making that transition, because you did it a little bit differently than some guys. You didn't just jump right in there and start fighting.
The transition was just from. Not having enough fights in kickboxing, and I was always a competitor, and I always wanted to compete. And you have 2 great big shows a year, like in Vegas, and that was it. Yeah. So then the rest of the time you're just looking for these fights. With MMA, you might have like one every weekend. You can find one like almost every weekend somewhere. Yeah. And that was another was a turning point in why to do it, because to stay competitive, I love to compete. And the other one was just. Kind of, it was a time for change, and everyone on my team was all in mixed martial arts, and I was like the only real kickboxer left. Right. So it kind of like fell into me, and then just being around it so much for all those years. I mean, when I started, when I was like 19, Chuck was like, he just got back from Brazil and fighting, so I was always around mixed martial arts. So it didn't come easy, but the understanding of everything came second nature, so to say.
When you're in the gym, how can you tell a guy who's a kickboxer or a striker is going to be, adept at learning that stuff? Because some guys may not learn it ever. I mean, they may be a travesty and they'll just go down to their back all the time and just sub-defense stinks. So how do you know you can do it?
Me personally?
Anybody. I mean, if you were scouting people, you're like, that guy right there has no shot to ever learn the ground game.
If he can stop a shot.
Yeah, that's it.
If he wants to stop the shot and stand up, or if he goes to the ground and does a good job keeping it that way, then yeah, I mean, that's good. But if they're not going to listen and stand straight up and tall like a kickboxer, right. Sorry. Don't waste my time.
So can you be objective on this one? If you had your choice looking back, would you rather come from a wrestling background, or do you feel like you have an extra advantage coming from the stand-up background?
I will take the stand-up. Yeah, it's just, I mean, takedowns, yeah, but knockouts are with your hands and feet, so...
You know what, honestly, I've been covering it now for 10 years, and I still think it's a lost art or an unfound art. The striking end, I think most guys, are not fluid strikers, that are not volume strikers, and I think the other part of it is defensively, they're not good strikers.
No, I mean, they think you learn like, 6 punches and, or 4 different punches and a couple knees and elbows and kicks, and that's it. That's all you need to learn. But no, there's a science. I mean, people have been boxing for years, so... It's not like you just throw that out the door. I mean, you use everything.
Do you feel in some ways is there like a kind of a brotherhood with all the guys who've made the transition from stand-up and especially kickboxing, whether it's, Chuck, Crow Cop, now more recently a guy like Pat Barry or Hardonk. I mean, I'm sure you find yourself rooting for those guys to do well.
Oh, of course. I always root for the, for the kickboxer. Yeah. So
all right, well, tell us about Britt. Because obviously you got a little challenge here. I don't know that he's going to be a guy who's going to look to stand the whole time.
He's a guy that comes straight forward and try to take my head off and take me down. So I'm gonna stop that. I'm not gonna let him do it. So, sorry, Britt. But yeah, I mean, I've been watching a lot of films on him, so kind of a good idea of what he's gonna do, and see what happens on Saturday. So
let's ask about one fight on the card too, and he's kind of making a comeback now after a little time off. Kung Lee figured he was going to go into movies, and it dried up a little bit. Where do you think Kung is now? I mean, he's on the back end age-wise, and I think everyone was really high on him, and now everyone has a little doubt because of his dedication. But I mean, he was walking through people.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I saw him a lot. He was on a lot of the K1 cards when I was starting off, so I mean, I got to see him a lot, and he's a great stand-up fighter. I really don't know. I mean, as far as what's going to happen. Hopefully that ring rust, he's been gone for a while, won't just catch up to him right in there. So.